Hey everyone, Clueless Dad here. I have another crib lowering video. This is the Sleepy by Stokke, and we have it at the highest level right now, and I'm going to put it all the way down to the lowest level because my kid is growing fast. So let's do a time lapse, and then I'll explain a little more at the end. So ready, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so finally done. Man, that was a huge pain in the ass. As you could see from my flailing around there, I figured it out eventually, but it was a real huge. So I actually did check the manual again before I filmed this video, and it really does not provide any instructions on changing the height. It just shows in a couple panels the different heights, but it doesn't say how to go from one height to another. So looking back now, I would say just follow the instructions as if you were assembling it from the first time, because the way I did it was complete. Basically, I figured, okay, since the 3 center pieces here are already tied together, why don't I just take the whole thing out and then take the L brackets that connect to the frame and just reconnect those in the right position and lower it down and put it in. The problem is, as a whole, this thing is just too unwieldy. So especially if you're trying to do it by yourself like I did in front of a camera, and there's kids around, so you don't want to be swearing too hard, don't do it that way. If you have someone helping you, maybe that approach works a little bit better. But what I found was putting it in the correct position, lining up the bolts and all that, just with 2 hands is impossible. I actually thought maybe if I put it on its side, it would even be easier, because it's just too many things to line up and hold and keep from tilting all at the same time. So a huge up, if anything else. If you saw my original video on assembling this, you'll know I really took it to task for having an absolutely design. So if those screws come loose, each screw that comes loose puts more load on the other ones, and if someone's just jumping up and down on this center piece, the whole thing could fall through. So taking it apart, I'm reminded of that fact and realizing even more how it is. And again, sorry for the bad language, but it really did me off. So as someone with a higher degree in machine design, it really pains me to see this. All the screws in this thing are really short, so you basically have a couple threads holding this thing from falling apart, and there are some cases loaded in shear, and the screws are pretty crappy, and once you've taken it apart and put it together a couple times, they're even more crappy. And so I'm actually glad that we went from a high position to the lowest possible position, because right now this thing is only a couple centimeters off the ground, so if it actually collapses because some of these screws fail, the kid's not really going anywhere. It's going to drop 2 inches. But seriously, like if you had it high and you had a kid in there and the screws come loose, could be pretty serious. Actually, so we've had this thing for, I don't know, going on maybe 4 or 5 months, and we haven't used it that much because this is our spare bedroom. But already when I was taking this thing apart, I realized that some of the screws that I just put together a couple months ago were already loose. So if you own the Stokke Sleepi, my #1 recommendation for you to do is check these bolts every month or 2. Just make sure nothing comes loose, especially if your kid is older and is able to stand and jump on it. If you don't, no guarantee that this thing is not going to fall apart. So aside from my rant about the design, let me talk really briefly about the different levels on this. So there's actually 2 sets of holes, and those connect to L brackets, and the L brackets can either be like this or like this, so you get 2 heights per hole basically. And we had it previously at the upper hole at the highest height, like this level, and that's actually 41 centimeters from the top. And in this case, my kid is now 70 something centimeters, so he's grown quite a bit. He can stand up, so we need it to be lower. So I went all the way to the bottom hole with it in this position. So the cool thing is now it's about 71, 72 centimeters to the baseboard. So once you put the mattress on, it'll lose a couple centimeters, maybe 6 or 7 centimeters for the compressed mattress. But that should put my kid, if he's standing on it, right at about eye level, or maybe a little bit lower, eye level, right below the edge. So until he's able to do pull-ups, he hopefully won't be able to get out of this thing. Okay, so to wrap up, the better way of doing it, unlike what I did, take these 3 pieces apart. So basically remove this centerpiece by unscrewing these brackets, lift that out, and then take the end pieces out one at a time. So unscrew it from the 3 brackets, take those 3 brackets, put in the lower position like you see now. And what I would recommend at that point is flip this entire thing upside down and then put the piece on from the top and then screw them in, and then do it again for this one, and then try to screw all 3 together from those brackets again. But the issue is you've got to basically do it from the bottom, and these gaps are pretty small, so if you've got big hands that might be kind of a problem. But again, you can flip it back over and then just reach down. So no matter which way you do it, it's definitely going to be a pain and a lot of labor. So just keep that in mind when you start. The other piece of advice I would give is keep everything loose until you get all the holes lined up, and then go back and screw it in really well. Because otherwise, you know, all these things are only connected by a single screw, which means that they can rotate out of alignment with the other piece, and that's just a bad design again. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing, and check out our other videos about the Stokke Sleepi, other Stokke products, and what I think is a much better crib, which is the IKEA Sundvig. I've done videos about assembling it and also changing the height. So check those videos out if you want to see what a crib with a slightly better design looks like. Okay, thank you very much. See you next time. When these pads get worn in, it won't be as tricky as I'm finding it right now on the first try. But see, I can already get it off easier, so not that bad.